All right, everybody, this is the last regular class for the new member class for Eastern Connecticut Football Officials 2026. New member class, which you will be able to watch asynchronously. And if you are just getting to this class for the first time with this video, check out our playlist in the description and make sure you go back and watch from the beginning. All right, so I'll start out first with the slides. So we are going to first talk about the new name actually is not linesman. I got to go back and change this. This is now head line judge and line judge. All right, there we go. And again, my name is Mike Billica. All right, so I'm going to start with what happens at the very beginning of every game, and that is there's a kickoff. Now, when you first start in the beginning of the season, preseason, you first go out on a field with high school age players, it's probably going to be a scrimmage. And in these scrimmages, we're not going to see live kicks. Therefore, it's difficult to get practice on this before the first week's games. If you are fortunate enough to work in a varsity game, or if you're working in a junior varsity game where they're actually kicking off, or if you're working in a youth game where they're having a kickoff in that first week of the youth season, this is the positioning that you see on the field. The back judge will take the kicker's line. The umpire will take the receiver's line. This is a new mechanic from last year, but it is for new officials. You guys are learning this for the first time. The head linesman and line judge are going to start down the field. Now, if this is a youth game or a JV game, we don't have a back judge. So in that case, the short wing here would come up and cover that line. The other short wing would cover the other line. And instead, the umpire will be down the field. So in 4-man and 3-man, the wings are the ones who hold the kicker and receiver's line. Now, how do you know which one to hold? Well, basically, if the kicking team is on your sideline, you're bringing out the football, you go on the kicking team line. If the receiving team is on your sideline and your partner's coming out with the ball, then you have the receiving team. So basically, we stay with our teams when we're in 3 and 4-man on kickoff. But in any case, the referee is going to be deep. Now, there's a few different rules that apply on kicks, and a big one is that the kicker has to more or less be in the middle. It's not like the old days when some of us played where you could put 8 guys on one side of the kicker and really flood the zone. Now, you can really only have 2 types of orientations. You can have 6 on one side and 4 on the other, or it can be balanced, like in this case, 5 and 5. The count has to be right when the ball is kicked. So guys can be crossing over at this point before the kicker approaches the ball, but once the kicker is driving his foot through the ball, there can be at most 4 on either side of the kicker. Now, of course, we see here that the kicker is back here at the 33 or so yard line, getting ready to run up to kick the ball. Every other kicking team player has to be between the 40 and the 45. Nobody is allowed to be beyond 5 yards from the spot of the kick, except for the kicker. So in other words, if they do a little fake and this kicker doesn't end up kicking the ball, and instead this one of these up guys runs up and kicks it, we have a foul, and the ball is dead immediately. It's an illegal formation by the kicking team, and it's dead at the moment they kick it. Actually, all fouls by the kicking team are dead as soon as they kick it. So if it's encroachment, in other words, one of these players gets across the 40-yard line before the kicker kicks the ball. Now we're looking for significantly across. If he's just leaning across and they kick it deep, we're not going to flag that. We're not going to whistle that dead. But if you have him significantly across, then you're going to throw the flag and you're going to blow your whistle, just like a defensive player being in the neutral zone. It's dead immediately. Now, of course, this is what's recommended for 5. And you can see here we have a lot of guys able to cover a very big field. But in 3 and 4, we've got that same big field, but we have a lot less room to cover. So what I recommend that you do is hold your position as long as you can in 3 and 4. Most of those kickers in JV and youth don't kick it very far anyway. And the tough thing is that after they kick it, you can see here that all these guys are bunched up. You're probably going to see a lot of that in the youth game because they know that the kicker won't kick it very far. All the players are going to be pretty close to where you started. So there's no reason to move in because post kick, as you can see here, the ball's kicked. Well, we need to now look at all these blocks. And if you started on one player on the 50, the other player on the 40, then you don't have to go very far to see this. And the key is on a long return, you can see here that we have to stay with this forward progress spot all the way down the field. In 4-man and 3-man, we don't have a back judge to get goal line. So technically, that's our goal line as well. But of course, in 5-man on a long return, the umpire is going to get off the sideline, leave that to the wings. The back judge is going to also be in the middle of the field, but it's going to stay deep. And at this point, if you look at this play right here, this is indistinguishable from a long running play from a regular snap. The referee is behind the ball. The back judge is beyond and in front. So the referee is looking at blocks in this area. The back judge is looking at blocks in this area. The head linesman is looking at blockers around the ball. You don't have to stare at the football, but around the ball. The umpire is looking at blocks from the inside out. So he's looking at blocks to the inside, whereas the head linesman is looking at blocks to the outside, look and switching to in if there's nothing outside. The umpire starts inside, and if there's nothing inside, then moves out. Now, the wing on the far side, the line judge down here, doesn't have anyone on his half of the field. So he's going to look for players that are going opposite the direction everybody else, looking to light somebody up. We say that's a player with a brick in their hand, and we need to make sure that we don't miss a big hit in the open field. A big open field hit, we need to see this from sometimes 30, 40, 50 yards away. Kickoff is one of the hardest plays to officiate. Number one, like I said earlier, that it's a rare play. But number two, it's a big wide open field. All right, so after the free kick play ends, we're going to need to do 3 things. Ball rotation, we're going to have to get the chain set, and we're going to have to be aware that the offense is coming onto the field, the defense is coming onto the field, the special teams are leaving. So let's take a look at this action right here. See, there's a lot of players switching positions. We have a ball coming in. So now the umpire gets the ball. He's going to spot the football. Everybody has to get back to their position. The ball is spotted up here. And just like that, the referee blows his whistle because the teams have subbed. So at some point in that interaction, you could have up to 22 players on each team on the field. So you need to wait till they clear and start figuring out who's declaring themselves to be on for the next play and count your 11 players. All right. Now, if you're in a big crew, the more officials there are, the less the short wing has to do, the less the umpire has to do, because we have 2 guys on each sideline. You don't necessarily have to sub a ball in if your partner's doing it. But if you're working 3 and 4-man, you have relatively more to do because now you've got substitutes on your sideline. You've got ball rotation. If there's no umpire, you might even have to run in and spot the football. And the referee will also have to be a lot more organized. But let's see what it looks like in a game with more officials. And you'll see how
kick's going to hit the turf, bounce, and Waterford will have it at the 25-yard line.
Casey, the fan base here, it's a packed stadium, and the energy is going to be really outstanding as that will keep that momentum on Killingly's side. And it seemed like they're well run, like they did their studies and they're prepared today as everybody's executing with that kind of energy.
Waterford will have the ball.
So you can see here that everybody has a job on a crew after a kickoff. You need to be ready to get into your next position. The next position is going to be a traditional play like the ones we've looked at earlier in the class. The referee is going to have to be ready to blow the ready for play. The umpire here has positioned the ball. The wings at this point should make sure that the chains are in the right place, make sure that the down box says 1. And you should be counting your defense. If you're an umpire, you're going to be counting the offense with the referee. Now, if the kickoff ends and there's a flag on the field, well, now we have a bit more to do, but we're not going to worry about spotting the football quite yet. First, we're going to get that information to the referee. Once we get the information to the referee, we need to hold important spots. So this is critical. If you're in a 4 or 5 or more game, official game, then the line judge is going to hold the enforcement spot. The headline judge on the chains is going to go also starting from the enforcement spot. That is, where is the penalty going to be marked from? Now, the umpire is going to look to the sideline where the chains are, indicate whether it's a 5, 10, or 15-yard penalty, or maybe half the distance. Make sure that you are ready when this umpire looks over to make eye contact. Because if you don't, he's going to leave without you, and we're not going to get that critical second check on making sure this enforcement is correct. So we're going to watch this video just to see this interaction.
Bounces, comes down to the 20-yard line. Return up the middle to the right hash. Flag comes in late. That return by the Whalers got them to the 30. Tyree Barnes was the returner, but we'll see where the flag is on. It's a personal foul, face mask against the Falcons, so the Whalers will get up to the 45-yard line. They'll have great field position to start their second drive.
That's a good start, at least for this drive right now. These two programs have great energy. The biggest thing throughout the game is how they can keep their composure throughout that game and keep that energy focused on making successful plays. So let's see what the Whalers can do right here.
Whalers will march it up to the 45. In this series, Philistin is not in at quarterback. It'll be Irizarry. Kiki Irizarry will be the quarterback.
So the line judge here only reports to the new spot when he has confirmed that the 15-yard penalty was enforced accurately. And in this case, rather than doing math, rather than going, okay, 30 plus 15, carry the 1, 45, we don't need to do that because we have these big white lines every 5th yard. So when it's a 15-yard penalty, you're going to go 3 big lines. So let's go back and look at where we were.
Great energy. The biggest thing throughout the game is...
So we're starting from the 30. That's the spot of the foul. That's why the referee is indicating to the umpire. The head line judge is getting ready to identify that enforcement spot. We can't see on the screen, but the line judge is also lined up on that enforcement spot. And we know that 3 lines from the 30 would be 1, 2, 3. So we are going here. It doesn't matter what number that is. And it's important to think this way because it's one thing when it's from the 30 to the 45. But what if it was 15 yards from the 40? Well, that would be 40 to the 55. But there is no 55 on the field. We have to start subtracting after you pass the 50-yard line. And that's when math gets hard. But the big line trick always works. So if we start the foul here and it's a major foul for 15 yards, we're going 3 lines. And usually, and I'll stop sharing, usually the umpire will look at the sideline and he'll give 3 fingers to indicate I'm going 3 big lines. I'm going 15 yards. If it's a holding penalty or another 10-yard foul, he's going to do this. I'm going 2 lines. And if finally a encroachment, 5-yard penalty, he's just going to go 1. So that's the universal signal for how many big lines you're going to walk. Now, it's one thing in this case when we started right on the 30-yard line. But let's talk about a couple scenarios. Okay. Let's say that the face mask didn't occur right on a big line. Let's say that instead the face mask occurred one tick mark behind the big line. So I still have to go 3 big lines even from here. So I've got 1 step to the first big line. I want you to keep that in mind. 1 step to the first big line. So we go 1, 2, 3. So once we cross 3 big lines, we then have to go 1 step from the next big line. So we would go to the 44 in this case. And again, we're not counting 15 steps, 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going by lines. So I know that I'm 1 yard shy of the big line. So you might even jog down to the 3rd big line and then take 1 step back. There's no prescribed way to do this, but I'm going to say that
how they can keep their composure throughout that game and keep that energy focused on making successful plays. So let's see what the Whalers can do right here.
What doesn't look good is when the umpire is marching 1, 2, 3, 4, stamping his foot every yard line. The way this crew...
Whalers will march it up to the 45.
They're just making their way to the spot after enforcement. So obviously reach out if you have any question, drop a comment. And we're going to move on to the next play. So again, this penalty enforcement rule that I just described applies to all penalties on all kinds of plays. But just remember, it can happen on the very first play of your season this year. So let's take a look at what we need to watch before and after free kicks and how our sideline management is super important. Now, you may remember from the beginning of the class that you have 2 full yards. That is from the sideline to this yellow line and even further. That's supposed to be clear. This yellow line is actually right in the middle of that 2-yard area. So we want players to be well behind the yellow line here, right? We definitely want coaches to be behind the yellow line so that we have room to work. Now, if we're in correct position, we're going to see this action.
Erie Tiger Network, 4:02 remaining here in this 4th quarter. Tigers trail it by 7 here. So glad you could join us, whether it's on the NFHS network or on our YouTube stream. Over 500 of you listening because you're not seeing anything. It's just black. So the Tigers lining up in their usual little dummy onside kick. The question is, do they do it here? And they will. Here's the little poocher toward the sideline. The Tigers get it. They get it, and they run it up the sideline. Oh, it was so well executed. It was a player that was split out to the near side. Sean Thomas Francisco. The Tigers clumped in the middle, and Dom perfectly placed it like a soccer cross to the near side, and Sean Thomas came up and scooped it up. No one was there for Montrose. It was like a little designed pass route almost. Holy cow! What a play. The referees are going to talk. I don't think that he can advance the ball after a recovery. It'll still be Erie ball. But
all right, I'm going to stop it right there. We watched the play, and you see the circle at the beginning on this player right here. And then we're going to see that player with a hand on hips. And the coaches are actually further onto the field than the player is. So this is what I call a pretended substitution. It is a trick play that is also illegal. This player, because he's a pretended substitution, is illegally participating. That's a 15-yard penalty. And since he illegally participated on a kick, it's not a running play. We have to push him back 15 yards and kick it again. Now, this commentator was absolutely correct about one thing, and that is if the kicking team actually recovers a kicked
They
ball
will. Here's the little poocher.
like this, the ball is dead right there. So the next play should be from the 47-yard line for the kicking team, 1st and 10. Let's see what they do. Actually, let's hear the announcement.
Took off up the sideline. It's still going to be Erie ball. So it's still Erie ball. And the fans.
So they allowed that player who was hidden to recover because this crew did not see where he came from. Let's go back to the formation again. Now, if you are responsible for giving the kicker the ball, your job is to count the kicking team. And you're going to see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I must have missed one. There must be a 10th in there, but there's not 11 players there. And you're going to say, Mr. Kicker, you've only got 10. You've only got 10. And at this point, you turn to your partner and you put 2 hands on your chest. You put 2 hands on your chest. I've got 10. And because we haven't blown the ball ready for play, it's not a delay of game. They can fix it. They can send their 11th player on, but they don't want to do that here, do they? They don't want to send the 11th player on. They want the receiving team to think that all 11 are already out there. Now, there could be another problem with this play. And remember, I told you there needs to be at least 4 on each side of the kicker. We don't have the end zone view here, but let's take a look. So it appears that the kicker kicks it right on this line. I've got 1. I've got 2. Obviously, the hiding player. That's 3. But these 2 players look like they may not be on the other side. Hold on a second. I have somebody who's knocking on the door. That might be for me. So we'll pause at this moment, contemplate that thought. All right, we're back. I want to thank the Montville Volunteer Fire Department in Uncasville, Connecticut, which is a neighborhood of Montville, Connecticut. We have those things here in Connecticut, neighborhoods. So again, just to confirm, my antenna should be way up when I see that there's a bunch of players on this side, and there's 4 other players, and I don't see 4 on this side of the kicker. Why don't I see 4? Because the 4th player, I didn't even know he was on the field. So that is a pretended substitution designed to deceive. Using the substitution process to do a hideout play, like I said, legal participation. But at the very least, you could throw a flag here for only 4 on one side of the kicker. For less than 4 on one side of the kicker. That means there was more than 6 on the other side. Okay, so again, key points. If the kicking team recovers a kick, whether it's a punt or a free kick like this, the ball is dead immediately. If the receiving team recovered it and then fumbled it, that's a different play because by rule, until the kick is possessed, it's still a kick. Sometimes we'll have the expression a kick is a kick is a kick, meaning that even though it's a loose ball like a fumble or a pass, like they said here, they kind of treated this play like a receiver going out for a pass. Whether the ball hits the ground, bounces, even hits a player and bounces off, the player muffs it, the ball is still considered a kick. So any kick cannot be advanced by the kicking team. All right. Well, like I said, players coming on late, leaving late, confusion. That happens a lot on special teams plays because hey, it's special teams. That these players are special. This may be the only time they get on the field. They forget it's time to come on. They come on late. Remember that we don't need to rush this ready for play. Let's make sure that both teams have 11 before we clear the ball and make it ready for play. I will back it up again and show that the official here is presumably looking at the kicking team and counting players.
500 of you listening because you're not seeing anything. It's just black.
But when he gets to the sideline,
so the Tigers lining up in their usual little
he's going to wait until they're ready.
Do they do it here?
And if he's out on the field like this, the ball's not ready for play yet. He's going to back off. And in Eastern Connecticut, he would actually raise his hand above his head. And the referee all the way down the field is going to blow a whistle to say, now the ball's ready for play. If they kick it before the referee blows it ready for play, it doesn't count. So in this play, there must have been a whistle. Let's listen for it.
So the Tigers lining up in their usual little dummy onside kick. The question is, do they do it here? And they will.
I did not hear a whistle, but maybe we just don't have good enough sound to hear the whistle. But there must have been a whistle prior to the kick. All right, let's go to the next slide. Or is this it? Yep, this is the last slide. All right, well, I'm going to take you to another play because again, we don't have any guests with us today. So what I'm going to do is we're going to have some bonus action. And we'll probably wrap this class up a little early. Okay, so we have 2 plays. I will show them one by one. Bear with me. I know I'm sharing my screen, but I'm not sure what I'm sharing yet. Looks like it's okay. So we saw the play once. Let's watch it again. Now, there is a glare from the sun, but again, we can see they're lined up, kicking from the 40. There is an official on this line. There will be another official on the receiver's line, and this is not going to be a deep kick. So what we see here is that the kicker either pooched it or rolled it or bounced it, and it hopped up into the air and it was coming down. This receiving team player attempted to possess the kick. This kicking team player is coming in, and the only official who really has the best look at this is this official. And if you look carefully at this official, he is starting to walk into the field as this contact is about to happen. Now, we can watch this contact, and I'll talk about the rules and requirements and restrictions on the kicking team on this play. But in the end, we have a recovery by the kicking team, and we're gonna not have a foul. And what we have here is a receiving team player in the act of possessing the ball, which makes him entirely defenseless. If a player is defenseless, any attacking opponent must do one of three things: make a legitimate attempt at the ball, which, I mean, granted, this ball might be loose. I don't know how well this ball has been controlled, but it does pop out pretty quick. So it looks like he doesn't have it. Like here, it's already kind of out. But then again, this guy just basically trucks him. Just basically trucks him. Now, I'm just going to argue that this official here who had the receiver's line could have seen this contact better if he'd stayed off the field and stayed on the sideline and just stayed still, because he would have had a clear line from there. But because he walked out onto the field, now this player is possibly blocking his view right at the moment of contact. Now, I work this game. He is going to go late and drop his flag, but then he's going to decide that, well, I think that guy was making a play on the football and therefore not guilty of an illegal contact on a defenseless player. But this player who got hit was down for a while. He was injured pretty severely. When he got nailed, his head bounced off of the turf pretty forcefully, the back of his head, and he did not play again in this game. This is why we are calling this unnecessary roughness against a defenseless receiver. Now, the ball's loose. It's not interference because he already had an opportunity. He didn't declare a fair catch. He didn't wave, as far as I can tell. There's no waving signal. But every receiving team player is entitled to try to catch a kick. You can't deny them the right. In fact, on a kickoff, the kicking team has to let the ball touch the ground before they're allowed to try for it. They cannot catch it in the air on a free kick. On a punt, it's a slightly different rule. You are allowed to catch a punt in the air if you're on the kicking team, but there can't be any receiver in the area. You must give receivers the right of way. And I would argue that he's just barely not guilty of interference, but then he's very much guilty of targeting a defenseless player. I even think it's targeting because I believe that this contact is to the head or neck and forcible. So I don't mean he'd be disqualified. What I mean is this should be a 15-yard penalty. That means the kicking team doesn't get to kick the ball. They have to go back 15 yards from the initial spot of the kick. So instead of kicking from the 40, they would go 1, 2, 3. They'd be kicking from the 25. And I bet they wouldn't be doing an onside kick again on their second try. But that's what should have happened on this play. All right, we'll look at this next play. And the video is going to start absolutely over-focused in, but it is going to back up right about here. So we're going to see a kick. And right now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players on this side. So that presumably means we got 4 on the other. So the formation is legal. That's a relatively deep kick for Connecticut high school football. So we kicked it from the 40 to the opposite 29 or so, and now it's at the 30, and now we have a return. So if you are a 3 or 4 man game official, you are going to have to stay on the sideline if you're a wing. But if you're an umpire, you must enter the field. Now, this is a 5-man game, so the umpire those are his feet right there. That's him. In a 5-man game, the umpire is here. What needs to happen is when he reads deep kick, not by watching the ball, but just by all the players moving, he reads deep kick, he must come out onto the field and get to about here. Why would that be an advantage? Well, because during the return, if he was in this far, but back at the 50, well, now he's got blockers, he's got a runner, and all this looks just like a running play. So if you ever do work umpiring a 4-man or 5-man game and you start on the sideline, you don't have to stay there. You get off the sideline. Now, if you're a wing official, you don't come onto the field. You stay on the sideline throughout the down. So we're going to see a foul at about this position, and we'll watch it during the return now. All right. See if you saw it. A guy gets totally turned around. Right there. All right. So that foul, if we go back and look at the moment that the holding occurred, right there, we have the holding is underway. The question is, which official can see this? It does look like it's white out in the open, but that's just from the camera's perspective. If you started on the receiver's line, this is the 40, the 50 is right over there. If you just held your position, you should be able to see through the gap between these two players and this group of players and see that restriction. It's so key to get the hold right here because the runner literally cuts just inside of that block. So it is absolutely material and it absolutely needs to be seen. Now, there's another person who could get it. The referee is looking from behind, but again, he's starting back near the goal line. It's a long way, but I've definitely thrown a holding flag from 40 yards away on a kickoff before. The official on the bottom of the screen, I don't see much here for them to look at. So if you're looking here, there's a lot of players running around. You definitely need to keep an eye on that. But this mugging, someone needs to get that mugging. So I hope that the umpire, which you can see here, he never moved. He's still on the sideline. Again, this would be correct for a wing official. It is incorrect for an umpire. Because if this is the umpire, he doesn't have to worry about being on the sideline. He needs to make his way in and work from this position and officiate inside out. And that leaves the short wing a free look down the sideline to see the hold and this super long return and make sure that that runner doesn't step out of bounds. And we actually had a touchdown on this return. So once again, very important not to miss this hold right here, especially because there's really no other action to really look carefully at. There's a few players near each other, but I don't see any other kind of restriction that should have got your attention as much as this one did. All right, I have a few more plays.
Jeremiah Langston, the lone. Oh, my mistake, not the lone receiver. It's Langston.
Okay, so if you look carefully on this play, this is a great wing play. What we have is we have defenders over here that are going to make a move towards the line of scrimmage. We have a offensive lineman that's going to move.
Jeremiah Langston, the lone. Oh, my mistake, not the lone receiver. It's Langston. There's some movement there at the line. A flag does come out here now.
All right, so you want to kill it as soon as possible. You got to blow your whistle to stop it. You got to throw your flag. The thing is, it's going to be on the offense unless the defense jumped into the neutral zone before the movement. We can't tell from this sideline view because we're not straight down the line of scrimmage. We can't tell if the defender broke the neutral zone, but we can see that nobody on the other side of the field or even the umpire threw a flag. So that means if you're the only flag, you can run right in and report. You don't have to talk to anybody else.
Calling the play dead, not giving Robbie Manning a free play there. And yeah, some movement, as you said. Gonna see, it looks like false start offense.
Wow. Crowd does not like that one. Not a bit.
I mean, looked a little like, I'm not gonna say anything.
All right. So we do see movement by the defense, but remember the
Oh, my
defense,
mistake, not the lone receiver. It's Langston.
they're allowed to move as long as they don't get into the neutral zone. So that's why your position is so important. You have to be able to see both the offenses and defenses line of scrimmage. You have to know if either side violates. The defense is allowed to move. They're not allowed to do jerky motions to try to draw the offense off, of course. But the defense was guessing. They guessed wrong. And if they had been closer to the line of scrimmage, yeah, they moved forward before this guy lifted out of his stance. But if they don't break the plane, he is not protected. He is not protected if they stayed on their side of the line of scrimmage. So it all depends on their initial position. In their initial position, if they're well back of the line of scrimmage, then this forward movement may have left them still back of the line of scrimmage. And if they didn't break that plane, then when he moved, it was all on him. All right, let's look at the next play.
Notice it yet. Falcons with 5.
Okay, I just want to point out we have first down and 10 on the 25-yard line. And this field is so well lined, you can see there's even different colors every 5 yards. But I want you to know that if you've got your pre-snap keys down, you've counted the defense, you've indicated the receiver is on or off the line that's next to you. The next thing you should always be aware of is where is the first down going to be? Now, this is first and 10 on a big line. That means you have to get to a big line. So let's take a
Seconds
look.
on the play clock, and they get the snap off. Back goes Hagan, looking over the middle, has his man, complete to Harper. Harper went backwards at first, but he does go forward and ends up picking up about 9. Out to the...
All right, so this is a college game, so we see we've got officials with letters on their shirt. In high school, we don't do that, but at least it tells us that this is the line judge. Up here is the headline judge. And the thing about the headline judge is you should never need to turn and look back at the chains behind you. Your partner can look across and see whether or not we've made the chains. But have we made the chains? No.
34-yard line.
But they're moving. And that's because the line judge mistakenly indicated that it was a first down. This head linesman said, "Oh, really? Okay, well, then he waved his arm to move the chains." This was only a 9-yard gain, guys. So that's a ding on both wing officials because you shouldn't need to look back at the chains on first down to know where the first down next is going to be. It's first down. You know that it's exactly 10 yards from where you're standing right now. You're on a big line. So if you can add that to your repertoire, where is the line to gain? Okay, I got to make it to the second big line. I got to make it to the 45. I've got to make it to 2 ticks past the next line. Whatever you need to tell yourself, say it. Because either of these wings could have fixed this error. Let's take a look at this next play.
First down, goal to go. Everybody in like a scrum. They're going to bring in Alamede to see if he can sneak in. They brought in Alamede. Look at this.
I'm sure he got in there.
He's under that pile somewhere. Look at this. I don't think, yep, second down. He did not make it. They brought in Tariq Alamede, who played the other day, and he runs the football. Well, he got a half yard to the half-yard line, so it's second down, half a yard. Is he staying in the game? Yep. Look at this.
Again.
And this time
I think he's in now.
And he is in for the touchdown. 1 yard.
All right, so I want to walk through this sequence. It's a two-play vignette. So we start at the 1 yard line. Now, when you start at the 1 yard line, you can see the umpire is well clear. He's in the end zone. This is the umpire. He does not want to get in any way of any other official trying to rule on any lines, right? This is not fourth down. So in other words, if they stop him short, we could still have another play for the offense. And what needs to happen on this play is as soon as there's a snap, this official at the top of the screen, the headline judge, needs to take a step and get on the pylon here. And I know they're all bunched up in the middle, but you want to be a few steps laterally back so you can still see right down the goal line. But just in case he busts outside and goes for the pylon, you're not getting run over. The same is true of the official at the bottom of the screen.
Everybody in like a scrum. They're going to bring in El Hamid to see if he can sneak in. They brought in Al Hamidi. Look at this.
So you can see here the wings don't indicate a signal. They don't put their hand up to mark dead ball, forward progress. They also don't put two hands up to mark touchdown because they can't see the football. You cannot make a ruling on a play like this unless you see the football, you see the runner in possession, and you know the runner is down or his progress is stopped, one or the other. If you don't see anything, you have to run in and find the football. Now, does that mean that sometimes the ball is moving inside the pile and we don't know? Absolutely, that's happening. Absolutely. If this runner can find himself in the end zone when he gets up, we would have a touchdown. Now, what you want to do when you come in is not actually push or pull players out of the way. You need to watch to make sure none of the players are pulling an opponent off the pile. You do want to tap them on the shoulder, though, and tell them to get clear because you have to see. You don't want to walk around any player. You want to hold your position. You can see that even though these officials don't know where the football is, they are holding a position outside the end zone because it's easier to correct from not a touchdown into a touchdown than it is to be in the end zone and everyone thinks, oh, he's got a touchdown, and then correct that to be short.
Look at this. I don't think, yep, second down. He did not make it. They brought.
So what we can see here is that number 8 is laying on the pile,
second down. He did not make
and he had his knees on the ground back there. So that means that the official at the bottom of the screen almost certainly had no look at it. The official at the top of the screen probably was able to see the knee down. So that's why he's going to go ahead and indicate this is a spot. When you're in this position, if your partner has a good spot, you just mirror where he is. Make sure you're in the same boat. But do not signal anything, because if your partner is wrong, you'd be repeating a wrong signal. So if you don't have the ball, if you don't have the spot, or you don't have progression, just give a what we call a soft spot. You give a spot, and then your partner is going to own the spot. And that's why this ball is at the half-yard line. Now, after you're done with a goal line play like this, as a wing, you have to book it. You've got to get back to the sideline to be far enough out there that you can get outside the pylon just in case it busts outside. Now, this official has not cleared. He is way too close. As an umpire, if I see my wing is that close, I'm going to stand over the football and let my wing get clear. As a referee, I'm not going to let the ball get snapped until this guy's clear. So don't make us wait. Get clear.
So second down, half a yard. Is he staying in the game?
And you can see here that this official is now in good position as they're coming up to the ball. This official, well, he's clear out on the field. He's in line with one of the uprights. He hasn't even made it back to the hash yet. That could be a problem if they bust out to his side.
Yep.
But what he does do is when he realizes he can't get out to the sideline, he freezes. He stops and officiates. This is old school to be out on the field. Do not do this. Get off the field. But I have to give him kudos for getting still.
Look at this.
Again.
Now, again, we can see that the official on the bottom of the screen really has no way of ruling on this play because all of these bodies are in between. The runner ran to the right. So the official on the top of the screen is the only one that's going to really have an opinion. That's how these goal line plays that are in the middle with a bunch of bodies on top of bodies. That's how it works. Whoever can get a good look at the ball and the runner's knees and the runner being down or stopped, that's who's going to make the signal. Just like that. So this was well officiated by this play. This guy redeemed himself by being still, but he needs to get off the field. Super important to get off the field. All right, so I am going to pull up a couple more plays since we have so much time. Let me go into my play repository here. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to move this screen over here. Okay, let's start with assisting the runner. No, this is a blindside block. Hold on. Let's go back. I want to start with assisting the runner. Oh my goodness, it doesn't want to. Okay, here we go. All right, we have a similar goal line situation. We have a wing official up here who's going to need to go to the goal line. We have a referee. In this particular conference, the umpire is in the offensive backfield rather than his normal defensive spot. And we're going to see an interesting play. All right, let's look back again. What does number 73 do here? Did he just grab his teammate's shoulder pad as he was being tackled and pull him into the end zone? He did. Now, that is a foul to push or pull a runner on your team anywhere. That's called helping the runner. And that is a 5-yard penalty for the spotted a foul, and you replay the down. Now, if you look carefully, there's only going to be 10 seconds left when this play ends. So we're going to move that ball back. It's first and goal, but now it's going to be first and goal from 7, but now with only 10 seconds. So we started at the 1, and we're going to go back to because the foul occurred. Oh, at the 6. Okay, it'll be at the 6 because it'd be 5 yards from the previous spot. So we would go back to the 6. We'd have to replay first in goal, but from the 6 instead of the 1. And who knows if they would have won this game. They end up winning this game on this play, and we missed that foul. I do like that play. All right, let's take a look at this major foul. Major fouls we haven't talked that much about. Again, we have a kickoff. And we have flags. Let's see if we can see the action. The flag ended up being in this general area. Let's take a look. So what we see here is that this runner is down. He's down. His helmet is off. And meanwhile, this kicking team player jumps on him and rolls him over. Completely unnecessary. And then he gets up, and we can't see this very well. He gets up, stands over him, and he's jawing at him right now. So we have one player who's guilty of a dead ball personal foul for jumping on and flipping over a runner that's clearly down. And then he stands over him and taunts him. That penalty is going to be significant. And of course, this player that got taunted, it's an insult to injury. We're going to have to deal with the fouls. So the flag was thrown by the referee. Other officials are providing information. This is a 7-man game, so we have extra people to communicate. But you notice that the only people in the conversation are the people that are involved. So we have an official who just dropped his flag late to say, oh, yeah, that was a foul for me too. So now let's see what the signal is. Personal foul, blindside block on the receiving team. After the play is over, unsportsmanlike conduct on the kicking team. So this is an interesting enforcement. The blindside block actually is what was flagged. Let's see if we can see it. I mean, I see a blindside block up. I see like a block where somebody's on the ground up top. Oh, there it is. Big hit, 29-yard line. Right as the camera gets to it. Bam, right there. White player, right about here, is going to, right there, just knock a guy's block off. And then he's the one who taunts. So we don't actually flag him for the flipping the guy over. He was a victim of a blindside block. Right, let's see if I can catch it. Right there. Bam, right there. So just watch this player get completely decleated. Now you might say, how is that blindside? It hit him in the chest. Yeah, but it's where your focus and concentration is. This kicking team player is looking at the runner. He's not looking at this blocker. You got to lead with the hands. That is a blindside block. It is a foul. So we have the blindside block. That is a 15-yard penalty, but because it happened on the 29-yard line, we can't mark off more than half the distance to the goal. Those of you savvy people watching football may have heard half the distance to the goal before. That's because no penalty can be enforced by more than half the distance to the goal. So we're going to go backwards, and I probably dropped my flag at the 28 to make sure we can do even numbers. But I'm going to go backwards half the distance from the 28 to the 14, and then I'm going to come forward a full 15 yards because one was a live ball foul, one was a dead ball foul. They do not, as they say, offset. If both fouls had occurred during the play, then they would have offset. But unsportsmanlike conduct is always considered to be after the play is over, even if it happened while the play was still going on. you would treat it separately. So we have to enforce these one at a time. So as you heard, personal foul, blindside block, receiving team, after the play, unsportsmanlike conduct, kicking team. Both teams fouled, but in this case, both enforcements have to be handled. And since one's half the distance and one is 15 yards, they don't cancel out as far as on the field yardage. And let's watch that umpire as he runs off this penalty. Okay, we're gonna put it on the 28 to make the half the distance easier. The umpire is coming in now. He's gonna walk off this penalty, making sure, oh, he's helping us get all the players off the field so we can adjudicate this foul. When we have fouls by both teams, we need to be super careful. Now let me share the screen. Because we've just been discussing, the umpire was clearing people off the field. Now he got a new ball. He's coming in. He's got the receiving team's football now. And now he's like, what do we do here? Okay, we're going half the distance. And then we're going to come back to full 15. Okay, boss, here I go. So he's going to take off down to the 15. He tapped his forearm to say, I'm going half. And then he's going to come back and do the full 15 back. So from the 14 to the 15 yards is now 1st and 10 at the 29. So after all of that, we end up moving the ball by 1 yard. So that may seem like it was a long time to enforce this penalty, but when you have kick plays and you have multiple fouls by both teams, you do take your time. All right, let's look at let's look at this one. A block below the waist. Blocks below the waist don't happen very often, but basically the only time you can block below the waist is basically right after the snap. Block below the waist is a block that's initiated below the waist, so at the thighs, at the knees, at the ankles. But once that ball has started to move, it's been snapped, they're running around with it, you can't block below the waist anymore. Let's take a look at this play and see if you can spot it when I play it through the first time. Did you see it? We got the universal I'm guilty sign. We got a coach that's Johnny on the spot getting his player off the field. The universal I'm guilty sign, always present when the guy knows he's guilty. So there's no right to go low after an interception. You just cannot block low. And you might argue, this guy's trying to make a tackle. The guy he hits is not the runner. He takes out the lead blocker. And that's something you have to watch for when there's a play with a blocker out in front of a runner and a littler guy that doesn't want to engage. He's going to go low because that's the only way he can feel safe about it. He doesn't want to fight through it. So he goes low. Super dangerous. Super dangerous. And that's why number 71 comes out and he's like defending his teammate here. He's going to go out and challenge him because he's like, why did you cut my teammate's legs out like that? Now, you see on an interception, there's a lot of moving parts. So let's freeze it right here. So we have the ball, it's been turned over. So if you are a short wing, you started on the line of scrimmage. This is why you hold the line of scrimmage until you have to go. This ball is clearly intercepted. They're coming back the other way. You have to be prepared to officiate now what we call reverse mechanics. And if it's a 5-man game, a 4-man game, or a 3-man game, Reverse mechanics just means now you've got forward progress the other direction and you've got goal line the other direction. So the only person that's going to see this, though, is somebody that's not staring at the football player that has the ball. So this guy who has the ball, he's right under this play button right here. There's no one going to touch him. No one's going to touch him. This is a concern. That was a concern. Right? We got a block right here. That's from the side, so that's fine. Now we have a guy who's heading the opposite direction from everybody else. This is the guy you got to watch. So if you're a wing official, you're looking in, you should have a clear view of this because these are blocks around the runner. Now, normally we're expecting a foul by the blocking team, not by the defense team. But when the defense goes low, we have to get it every single time. You got to get that foul. You just have to. Of course, this is during the interception return. So I'm going to get the report, get the information. I'll fast forward. All right, let's see the report. Personal foul, block below the waist. That is correct because it is the passing team. So it's so important that when you report this to the referee, you know it was a block below the waist. Don't say it was by the defense. Yes, the offense needed to play defense, but we need to make sure Mr. Referee, who did not see the hit, didn't see the play, was protecting the quarterback, he needs to point the right direction. So remember, the guy who fouled was originally on the team that threw the football, but it was during the interception return, and he took out the lead blocker. So saying that kind of information is going to help the referee point in the right direction. Now, what is that going to mean? Well, the runner was down pretty close, I think, to where the foul is. So the low block is right about the 35. The runner actually makes it to the 32 or 33. We have a flag right about the 35 and a half. So we'll see here that the umpire is going to walk it off from the 35. So we actually cheated the team by 3 yards because I think that this runner was down at the 32, not the 35. And this penalty should be enforced since it was by the opponent of the runner, should be enforced from the end of the run. So we should have gone 15 yards from the end of the run, which means we should have walked it from the 32 and gone 3 lines. But instead, we go from the 35. Now, granted, the defense just got an interception. They're going to be in the red zone. They're happy. They're happy. But it's just a reminder that when you throw a flag for blindside block, you don't stop officiating. The runner's not down yet. You have to keep working. More can happen. And then you need to get that spot. You need to hold that spot. And what we have here is we have a really good get by one wing official, and then the other wing official was in reverse mechanics. So this wing official would have been basically the line judge in our game. Threw the flag for the low block, needed to also get the end of the run. He needed to. And he didn't because he was right away getting contacted by another player. So this is a situation where the guy on the other side, I know he can't see whether the guy went out of bounds or not, but he knows when he hit the ground. He might have up here at the top, might have a better idea of where the run ended than the guy here that got trapped by all the whining and complaining players. So be prepared to help your partner out in a situation like this where you're tied up. All right. And again, not having any people in the audience today, I think I'll just show one more play. And let's go with blindside block, not on the runner. Yeah. Okay. We got another turnover. Okay, so you'll see that this runner tries to reverse field and gets absolutely popped. Absolutely popped. Now he gets hit from the blind side, but he's a runner. The runner is always considered to be not defenseless. You can't commit a foul by hitting the runner from the blind side. So this is a totally legal hit. Unless he went to the head, which he doesn't. He goes to the body, not a foul. But what I do see here is a player's on the ground over here. And we're going to see just off camera, bam, 92 says, hello, good morning. And that player in blue doesn't see him in order to defend himself and gets absolutely put on his keister. And while 92, you might argue, pushed, he led with the shoulder and did a forearm into his chest. So open hands means hands, not forearm, not elbow, not shoulder, hands. If he wanted to block this guy, he should not have dipped and thrust upward with the forearm into his chest. This is a foul that actually, because it's an interception return, the referee, who was behind the offense, is now basically being behind the defense. He threw the flag for that one. Now the back judge throws a flag for this. And I completely understand why he threw a flag. It's like, oh, that's a blindside block. Here comes the flag. Now the wings are marking the end of the return. That's where the hit, the ball came out, it was loose. Who has the ball? Is there a signal for direction? We should have a direction. Okay, the ball's right there. Let's go back and follow the path of the ball. Did the ball get out of bounds? Okay, the team in white got up with the football. So that means that we don't have to worry about whether blue possessed it. White got an interception. They end up with the football at the 44-yard line. Now we have to deal with this foul. All right. So this is where you go up to the referee, if you're the calling official, and you say, this is what I saw. Right? I saw this guy come from nowhere, completely from the blind side, led with the shoulder, completely crush this guy and knock the ball out of his hands. This is where the conversation your crew can save you. Your crew can save you. So he's realizing at this point, oh, wait, that was the runner, wasn't he? We can't have a foul for blindside block. But I say, guess what? I had a foul for blindside block, and we can just say that that flag you threw was for my foul, the same one. We both had it. We'll fix this. There was only one foul on this play. It was during the return. The one that you flagged wasn't really a foul. Let's just convert it all into the one blindside block that we had down the field. Now that blindside block was by the intercepting team. Since it was by the intercepting team, that means that the runner end of his run is going to be compared to the spot of the foul. So you've got to give them that information. Yep. So we're indicating here, okay, the spot of the foul is actually here. We get a blindside block on the intercepting team. Now we're going to push the intercepting team back 15 yards but they are going to get to keep the ball. And I'm going to go run down and get my flag. All right. Now, why did we run it from the end of the run instead of the spot of the foul down here? Well, because if you are the team in possession and you also commit the foul on a running play like this, after the interception, it's a run. The two spots that matter are the spot of the foul and the end of the run. The end of the run is behind the spot of the foul, so you go from the end of the run. It's the classic which one hurts you worst argument. But that argument only works if it's in the open field, beyond the line of scrimmage, and it's by the team in possession. The foul has to be by the team in possession. If the defense had committed the blindside block, or in other words, the passing team had committed the blindside block, well, in that case, the spot of the foul is always irrelevant because we can only use the end of the run to mark off the penalty. Now, of course, the umpire here would have run the other way. But because this is a foul by the intercepting team, he went left. And again, you saw how carefully we need to report it. This is a complicated situation. As a new official, I don't expect that you're going to be able to figure out all the enforcement. But if you tell the crew, the veterans on the crew, hey, this is what I had, this is where it was, this is when it was, this is who it was, we're going to get it right. So I think that's all for today. I think this has been a great set of lessons to learn. I will upload this recording. This will complete the 2026 Eastern Connecticut football officials new member class. Let me stop sharing. And this will complete the 2026 new member class. And once again, I want to thank the Montville Volunteer Fire Department for lending us this wonderful space. I do hope that you will tell your friends. You will contact the Eastern Connecticut football officials. My name is Mike Billica. You can leave a comment in the description. And sorry, you can leave a comment on this video. You could also contact me at M as in Michael, B as in boy, ILICA at gmail.com. Or you can visit our website and I will show you the website. Let me go back and share the screen. Let me share the screen over here so I don't have the Zoom windows in the way. Okay, yeah, you can see it. Okay, so this is the Eastern Connecticut Football Officials Association. It says join the game here, join us to enhance your officiating career. There are a number of different bits of information here. It tells you the new officials class, when it started, that was when it started. So it runs every Tuesday and Thursday. Contact us for more information. So the website is ectfo.org. That is Eastern Connecticut Football Officials. ectfo.org. And on the right side of the screen, you'll see a contact information. Just give me your name, your email address, and say what you're trying to do. There's a little place you can write a message here. So just share with us your information. Let us know you've completed these videos. I'll give you a couple of quizzes that you can do just to make sure that you understand it. I can even break down the quizzes by the lesson so that you can watch. You can do a quiz after video 1. You can do a quiz after video 2. However you want to work it out. We'll work with you. We need you on the field this year. So please, if you live east of the Connecticut River, if you live in Griswold, you live in New London, you live in Colchester, you live in Eastford, you live in Mansfield, Willimantic, Killingly, any of the towns here east of the Connecticut River, we can get you games. We can put you on the field and tell your friends. But that said, that's all I have. Thank you for watching. Have a great night.